Happy Tuesday. If you're just tuning in, welcome. Okay. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. For those who are, I'm just going to see if I'm going in Facebook land. Yes, I am. Well, okay. Well, thank you for joining me. Today is, I've been talking about this lots lately. I've done some lives. Hello, Miss Kim from Campbell River. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to talk about vibration plate movement types. There's a lot of confusion when you're selecting plates, what these mean, what I use them for. There's companies out there saying, you know, this is good, this is bad. And the research isn't always, what's a nice way of saying this? The research isn't always easily interpreted. So if you are looking for a specific benefit, there's some information out there that may lead you to believe one style is better than another. But the reality is, for a lot of the benefits using a vibration plate, it is very much driven by what you physically do on it. And the most important point is how consistent you are with doing it. So today I've got a couple of different Lifepro models here, and I want to go over what these movement types are and what you can use them for your goals and how to accomplish them. If you are joining me today, Kim, I'm going to pick on you because I know you're here. Let me know if you can see and hear me on your end. And perfect. So I'm going to start my ramblings. And today I have with me the Rumblex 4D Plus, which is a model I know many of you are using. I also have set up one of the hexaplate models, the larger of the two. There are two, and you can see even just by looking at them, there's visually some differences between these plates as far as size. And sometimes when you're looking online or you're comparing certain things, it's hard to ascertain, you know, what type of movement maybe it is, because it doesn't specifically state it. And part of the problem in the consumer world for you guys is some of the terms, how do I put this? There's more terms than needed for each movement style. So I'm going to start with, there's two main types. There certainly are more movement types, but there's two main types of movement. The first, the foundational, the one that started it all 30, 40, 50 years ago, was an oscillating vibration plate. And an oscillating vibration plate, oscillating movement, I should say, is the one movement available in all of Lifepro's vibration plates. So regardless of which model you have, why am I not? Oh, I haven't plugged in for power. Maybe that's why my machines aren't turning on. That would do so much more benefit. Let's try that again. So oscillating movement is the first default setting on any of your machines. So with the 4D, as soon as you turn it on, there was a question in the group this morning. As soon as you turn on your machine, if you hit the play button, the forward button, the two little up and down little hooks side by side, this is oscillating movement. Oscillating movement moves you side to side. It very much mimics a very low impact form of walking. So one of the big appeals, of course, of using a vibration plate is they are known to offer less impact than perhaps some traditional activities. So oscillating movement simply moves us from side to side. And one of the most important benefits to understand when you're using oscillating movement is driven, the intensity or how strong the movement feels is driven by the position of your feet. So if you're really, really wide, and many of us think wider is more benefit, it's more movement, it's more impact. So think like a teeter-totter. If you're really, really wide, you're moving more than if your feet are closer to the center. So I want you to, for those of you that have a vibration plate, if you haven't played with the position of your feet or your hands, perhaps if you're doing an upper body position, you're always in control. So oscillating movement is that pivot of our hips. It's going to loosen, even just in a seated or a standing position. It's going to give you a boost of circulation, lymph. A lot of the benefits of movement are the same, but using different vibration plate movement types, it really boils down to a preference. And in the world of vibration machines, I've been doing this for the better part of 20 years. I started with the medical grade, both vertical and oscillating style plates. And what I can tell you, out of 10 people, 9 prefer the feeling of oscillating. It's more natural. It less rattles our head and our ears and our teeth. And you're always, as I said, in control with where we put our feet, be that wide or closer to the center. And oscillating also holds the vast majority of research. So any of the benefits that you're reading about or seeking, the bone density, the weight loss, all of it has been in some way, shape, or form validated in oscillating movement. The other style is vertical, and there's been lots of different discussions about vertical plates out there lately. Vertical plates have also a lot of research. How do they compare to oscillating movement? It moves you in a different way. So oscillating moves you like a teeter-totter. I'm going to do a visual because it's hard to see this close up on the machine. Oscillating has far greater amplitude, or there's more swing that the plate can move with each movement of the plate, and that's how far those muscles are stretching and reacting to keep you upright on this thing. So you've got variable, what's referred to as amplitude, and on most models, you're dealing with an actual frequency in the Lifepro world. The average consumer grade machine out there goes about 14 to 15 hertz. I've independently validated in my own testing, and all of Lifepro's models are well within that range, some of them as much as 16 hertz. The speeds or the levels that they're broken down into gives you variety to customize for your own personal sensitivity, challenge, whatever it is that you're performing on the plate. So on a Rumblex model where you've got multiple movements, the main movement being oscillating, you've got 60 speeds. So I typically recommend if you are starting out, it's more comfortable to bring your feet more naturally about hip width apart and work with a bit of a mid-speed range. So you're going to land in probably the 9, 10, 11 hertz, if you will. If you're working on a Lifepro, I want you at speed 30 to 40 to accomplish that. If you're working on a plate, before I get into the next movements, that is only oscillating movement, there's a reason for that. As I said, it's the foundational movement. Many of you are looking for simplistic operation. You want something lighter, more compact, something you can put by the bed at night, and maybe put it in the kitchen, or maybe you're a therapist and you're hauling it around. I had a discussion with a Lifepro therapist, I'm going to call her, and she's lugging a 4D around from home to home, and I'm very impressed. She's going to get strong doing that. But there's reasons that you may want to lean towards a more compact, a lighter model. So the Hex plate, this series is the one that has the therapeutic bumps on the surface. They're much lighter than the main models, the Waver, the Mini, certainly much lighter than the Rumblex. And because they have a singular movement of oscillating, there's one motor, one set of components, so this machine can be light and compact. Switching back to the Rumblex 4D, where we have oscillating, and we also have other movements, the next which we're going to speak about, which is vertical. So this one offers oscillating, pulsation, which is a mild form of vertical movement, and it also has lateral. So 3 different types of movement. Each movement type requires its own motor and its own components. So you're never going to see, from an engineering standpoint, you're never going to see something this little and this compact and this light have the same type of movement variety and settings that the larger Rumblex or the mid models, perhaps the Hovert or the Turbo offer. So every additional movement that a plate offers requires more components, more motor, more weight, more size. Okay. So let's move into the next movement. The next movement of research, there's a ton of it out there. It's got 30 odd years itself. It's a vibration that I started in, which is vertical. Vertical plates typically have higher or faster speeds. Their frequencies, they move faster, but the amplitude is much, much less than their oscillating counterparts. So somebody sent me a video recently, and I'm not going to be able to recreate it perfectly, but they had 1 foot on a vertical style platform, and they had 1 foot on an oscillating style platform. I believe it was a Lifepro, and they set them both at level 9. You can't compare oranges and apples and not confuse you on the other end. 2 completely different types of specs. So on your oscillating plates, the best in the world have upwards of 30 hertz and 8 to 10 millimeters of amplitude. So that's how far it's moving. On the best vertical plate from the research, the frequency ranges are typically higher. So they start around the 25, 30 range and go upwards of 50. But the amount of movement is at least half. The best medical grade device on the planet has about 4 millimeters of amplitude. The average vertical plate being sold on Amazon, marketed on some of the social media pages, is less than 1 millimeter. Back in the day when these big bad vertical machines were coming over to North America, they didn't put them in the hands of trainers. They didn't put them in the hands of therapists. They put them in shopping malls. And the amount of amplitude combined with those really high frequencies, it's not a pleasant sensation. So what manufacturers over time have done is they've reduced the amount of amplitude. The frequencies and the speeds are absolutely accurate, but the intensity, the distance those muscles are having to react and move on these plates has been watered down so substantially that I would simply call vertical movement, or anybody that's claiming to be a vertical machine today, if you're not spending $8,000 to $10,000, you're not getting the spirit of what a vertical plate was. The frequencies are accurate, but the amplitude, the intensity has been muted completely to almost nothing. And I've had a lot of people have conversations with me lately about, well, is lineal better than oscillating? I've heard that oscillating isn't vibration. If you truly understood the background in this industry, vibration is kind of a term synonymous with all of these machines. But what we're talking about today is different vibration plate movement types. Oscillating is one type, vertical is another type. On your oscillating, if you truly are drawn to oscillating, to vertical, second mode on your Rumblex models, and it's also available on the Turbo model. The Turbo has oscillating and pulsation. Pulsation is the therapeutic version of vertical. So the frequency ranges, and please don't quote me, I believe are 30 to 40 hertz in your pulsation mode. Hang on. I'm going to turn. Pulsation is the second mode when you turn on your Rumblex. So instead of hitting start right off the bat, there's a little set of wiggly lines beside the play button. If you hit that, it looks like 3 waves in a row. That is your pulsation mode. And if you hit play, you can feel the movement is much, much faster, but the amount of it is substantially reduced. So vertical movement has its place. Where would I recommend pulsation? Many of you asked me about a study, 30, 40 hertz. It is a starting point. It is a study. There are many, many others in oscillating much lower than that. But what is for many of you that have the inability to bend the knees, or you can only bend them slightly, oscillating or pardon me, the pulsation mode that we're in right now is very mild. So it's moving me anywhere from 30 to 40 times a second, but it's only moving me about a half a millimeter to 1 millimeter at a time. So very, very safe, very therapeutic. This is going to be great if you're lacking mobility and you just want to get started. Maybe you're dealing with really severe neuropathy. This is a great one for neuropathy. I would recommend, if you are dealing with neuropathy or mobility issues, just like I show you in oscillating, to start seated, get a feel for it. What you'll feel is it doesn't really go much past the knees. Once you stand up and bear mass, you start feeling it more, what I would refer to as total or whole body. And for those of you out there that don't love how this is feeling on your head, that's really one of the main reasons that vertical plates, the commercial grade, in my opinion, never really took off and are not as mainstream as they could have been. Improper coaching, people didn't understand how to use them properly, not to bend the knees enough, but you never really get away from the head buzz. It's just the nature of that style of movement. It is not harmful, but again, this is a preference at what feels best to you. And if you don't like how it feels, you're not going to be using it anyways. So the third movement type, available through Lifepro and available in all the Rumblex models, as well as the Hover is a mid model that has oscillating as well as lateral movement. Lateral movement, if you hit the little wavy, if you hit the select buttons again, we're going to get into the two lines that are side by side horizontally. That is lateral. So lateral is just a different way to move. For those of you that are dealing with stagnant lymph, swelling, you're very sensitive to head vibes, or you just don't like how it feels, lateral is another great way to move your body without little effort. It kind of challenges the balance a little bit differently. If you're working specifically on things like that, it is just another way to use the machine. What you will find when you stand on the plate, you're feeling this side to side movement, but there really isn't anything much up past the torso. You're not feeling it in the head. So none of these movements are per se better than the other for any one benefit. The benefits are truly driven by what you do on the machine and how consistently. So as an example, let's say I want to lose some weight. I want to get stronger in my legs. I want to get up out of this chair a little bit easier without having to use my arms. Well, if you haven't watched one of my hundreds of sessions here, and I'm sure Roseanne and Amber have done their share as well, a squat is the one position I recommend if you're just starting with a plate to get good at. A squat may look very different for you than it does for me. I'm in about a mid squat right now, and regardless of what mode I'm using, my muscles are working harder because I'm doing a squat versus standing. By adding the stimulation of the movement, be that oscillating, pulsation, or lateral, we're increasing the benefits through the additional movements our muscles are being forced to deal with in this environment while we're trying to do this squat. I personally, as a trainer, prefer and do all of my coaching sessions in oscillating movement for a couple of reasons. Oscillating, as I said, is the foundational movement. It's what started it all. It's the most natural feeling, and I deal with so many chronic and acute things. I want to be functional before we start, getting into a big crazy program and doing fitness things. The nice part about having additional movements is that if you are using your vibration crate regularly, you're enjoying the activity that it's giving you, it's really nice to just have some additional things to mix it up once in a while. I'm not a big fan of changing my moves all the time. I'm very much a creature of habit, but I do like to manipulate my settings, my foot placements, my angles. Maybe I'm adding some weight. And if you're working with a model with more movements, it's going to give you other options to just challenge your body and mix things up. So from research, oscillating, which is also referred to as pivotal and side alternating, is the foundational movement. Lifepro knows this. It's available in all of their models. Lineal vertical, linear. There's a number of terms for what we refer to as vertical movement. True vertical machines don't really exist anymore. They're very loud. They're very heavy. They're not the cheapest things to build. So the vast majority of machines that are out there are more what I refer to as the therapeutic version of them, called Pulsation. Pulsation is the second mode, as I said, on your Rumblex series, any of them. And it's also available on the Turbo, which has Oscillating and Pulsation. The last movement was Lateral. It's a newer movement. There's not a ton of research out there, but certainly the large body of research that already exists for oscillating and vertical style plates just lays the way for the next evolution. Lateral, combining these movements. A lot of it boils down to knowing your own limits, your level of comfort, and keep it simple. A lot of times I see these questions where, what do I need to do for this benefit? Or what do I need to set it at? And what you do need to realize is, if you're looking for fitness gains, long-term things like weight loss, strength gains, toning, there's going to need to be some effort on your part. But it doesn't mean it needs to be 15, 20 exotic moves. 3, 4 good exercises, and being consistent in doing them is the best way to get you to that finish line. Oscillating, I also prefer because it's got the most adjustability to you, the user. So if I'm dealing with someone very frail, very fearful, it's easy for me to bring those feet close and reduce that intensity to minimal. If I've got someone working out, you're an experienced user, you want that challenge, you're pushing yourself to fatigue, a wider foot placement and more aggressive positions are going to fatigue you faster. So play with what you know how to do. If you don't have a good exercise background and you need some solid advice, look at some of the videos we've offered here. Reach out to a trainer at the gym to get started on a basic program. A vibration plate is simply an environment that increases the effectiveness of your floor-based exercises, stretches, and if range of motion allows, of course, you can get down and do some massage and some warm, fuzzy stuff too. So you are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. And myself, Amber, and Roseanne are here to fill in the blanks with our sessions every week. So I hope that offered you some insight. I would like to hope I have some questions here, but I need to get rid of my blinding light first. I have done other videos on things like G-force and frequencies and a little bit more specific. So I will also maybe look at getting some of those links here to you as well. So I'm going to see who's here today. Thank you for joining me. Hi, Kim. Hi, Ray. Nice to see you. Kim, yes, you can. Oh, that was you telling me on my sound check. Ray says he can see and hear me. Thank you very much. Sometimes I've been jumping out of focus. I'm using Restream on the back end, and it's looking clear to me now. So hopefully that's coming through to you guys all fluidly. Bridget says, thank you for the explanations. I have the Hovert 3D, and I've been thinking about upgrading to one of the Rumblex. The Hovert's an awesome machine. The advantage of some of those in-between models is they're not quite as heavy. When you're considering a machine, the biggest thing that you can do is just consider, what are you actually going to be using this thing for? If you're not a big exercise guru now, you're not going to turn into one just because a vibration plate showed up in the mail. I would suggest look at your lifestyle. Are you looking at moving it around? I encourage symptom management. A lot of my folks in my disorders group are dealing with severe pain and lymph and poor mobility. And some of them are using it 10, 12 times a day, but it might only be for a minute or two. So symptom relief is a little different than fitness. Fitness, same parameters as the gym. If you're pushing to fatigue and putting some effort forth, you should be done and fatiguing within short time periods. I like to do a little bit of legs every day, early in the day, to get my old metabolism up and keep the weight off that I've worked so hard to achieve. But for many of you, it's you're doing a squat for 30 seconds or a minute before you go to bed for the restless leg, or maybe you have balance issues and you're using it for a couple of minutes before you head out the door. The more you play and experiment with your machine, the more you're going to figure out how it benefits you. Don't get so intimidated at all it can potentially do and all the settings and all the programs. Just start playing with it. It's a personal experience to everyone. Roseanne has the mini waiver, so I guess it's old school now. Absolutely not. The mini waiver, to be honest with you, Roseanne, is probably in one of the top 3 machines I recommend. Many of my users want something portable. They want something they can move around the house. And all of my sessions, as I said, are in oscillating movement. As I said, having more features is a nice to have, but you showing up and being consistent in using your machine is what's going to give you the benefits you're looking for, whatever those may be. So no, the mini is a very popular model. I really enjoy that it's lighter. When I go into home demos, I'm not hauling around a Rumblex anymore. I'm taking my mini or even some of the hex plates. And the mini is probably the one model that is equally as cool as a desk model, but it's also big enough and weighs enough that it's adequate for exercise. Sometimes you get into those smaller models and they just don't have enough weight. They get a little tippy and things like that. But I do enjoy the mini. My mom has the mini. And many in my group are using that model. It has a weight capacity. That would be my only caution for those of you that are considering it, but it's absolutely not old school. Many of my users just prefer the simplicity of one type of movement, and it's easier to progress and just manage things for them that way. And I only use oscillating. That's my personal choice. Kim says, I like my 4D for the large plate surface, but I started with a waiver. Yeah, there is a little bit more real estate. So if you are finding you really like getting down on the ground and doing some massage, Roseanne did a great one the other day where she was laying in the infrared sauna bag and had her calves on it. The Rumblex or the larger models, yes, there's more plate surface. If you're dealing with a larger body and you're doing lots of massage and stretching, you may enjoy larger plate surfaces. And this is some of the reasons why people end up with 2 plates or 3 plates, because there never is one that's perfect for every person and every use. So a lot of my therapists might have like a Rumblex in their office, but you know they've got a lighter, more portable one at home. Maybe they're letting it out for clients to try. It really depends on your purpose and your application with it. Ray says, I wonder what payer types can be accepted. Lifepro does have some Medicare options on their, I'm going to botch this because I'm a Canadian, but as you go through the checkout process, there is an option with their direct medical supplier. So there is an option with Lifepro for the items through their site directly, not through Amazon. So if you're looking at using, I'm going to look it up right now because it's bugging me, Ray. 2 seconds here. On Lifepro's main site, let me pull it up. How sad that I don't have it. Browser, hang on. I wonder if it says on the bottom. There is a checkout option for Medicare, and there's also I see still a 30% off sale. So if for those of you that have been looking, I was lecturing you last week. There's still some pretty good deals. I know the Rumblex Plus is in there. If any of you have something in your shopping cart, what Ray is asking is if you can check out as a through your medical card, and there is an option on their website, Ray. So if you're curious, take it that far, and there's always 10 million options before you actually hit the button and pull out your credit card. But that's done directly through their website, not on Amazon. What else can I tell you? Hang on, that's not the link I wanted. Any questions you guys may have? I know some of you have been reading things elsewhere, hearing things that, this is bad, that's good. They're all good. There's no such thing as a bad vibration machine. There's understanding how to use the type that you have effectively. So keep that in mind. And I would recommend for those of you that are considering plates, I do have other videos where I get into a little bit more of a comparison or details. But if you're a simplistic user, you're looking for simple progress, simple input, the waiver and the mini are really my #1 recommendations in most cases. If you are looking at something a little bit more fitness oriented, you want a few more features, I recommend either the Rumblex Plus or the Max. I like the flat plate surface because I do deal with a lot of chronic issues. The curves are going to give you a little bit more challenge, a little bit more resistance for those that are looking for that type of use. That's why there's so many different plates and so many choices, because you're all so unique and individual. If it was just one type of body out there, we could be working with one type of tool. So thank you for listening to my ramblings today. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And I want you guys to reach out to me with any questions you may have. Tag me at Debby with a Y. And don't work too hard. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Maybe we could do a demo on I can absolutely do a demo on. Ray is referring, and many of you haven't heard of this, but I'll take a quick opportunity. I talk a lot about Derkham's disease, and not everyone knows about that, lipedema. There's a number of conditions in my disorders group that some of you have. There is a separate group, Derkham's disease answers, that Ray and Kim are heavily involved in. And Ray, if you'd like, feel free to just drop a link to that group on the feed for anyone dealing with Derkham's disease. If you don't know what Derkham's disease is, do a Google search. I think you might be surprised. And I believe derkhamsdisease.org. Ray, am I right? If you've got a site here, I've got a couple seconds if you could drop that. Otherwise, I'll get some links to you guys after the live. Don't work too hard and have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much, guys.